there's some question among the scholars whether that's really true. So he had this pull between this spiritual quest he knew he had to undertake and then his beloved wife and child. Actually, now there's some scholars say that he was named after the eclipse, lunar eclipse, Rahu, that happened at his birth. In any rate, he left home. You can imagine his wife's various reactions. We can only imagine because we don't know. So his primary wife, he may have had more than one wife, there's indications in the scripture she wasn't very happy, because when he came back after he had become enlightened and was teaching people, he came back to his home city, and she came out to greet him with his then 7-year-old son, and shoved the son forward and said, "Ask your father for your inheritance." And you can detect the bitterness in the there's not all sweetness and light, as Thich Nhat Hanh rewrites it as, she knew that she couldn't undertake the spiritual quest because she had duties, so she said, "You do it and then come back and tell me when you find out." Eventually she came to the practice, but at this stage she was not so happy. So the Buddha said, "Oh, okay, well, he turns to his monks and said, "Let's ordain him." I'm sure that made her very happy. And take him away. And later they made a rule that you had to be older to be ordained, because that was too young to take a child away. But he was ordained at 7 and then practiced in the family of the Sangha. And the instructions that the Buddha gives his own son are very interesting. You think of how difficult it is to teach your own children. They usually learn better, especially after they become teenagers, from somebody else. And when his son was 18, the Buddha gave him this teaching, which we could consider part of his inheritance. So he gave him 2 main teachings that are in the scriptures, and this is the one when he was 18. Rahula, develop a mind that is like the 4 great elements, earth, water, fire, and air. Because if you do this, pleasant or unpleasant sensory impressions that have arisen and taken hold of the mind will not persist. So if you meditate on the earth, or the other elements, the things that seize the mind and create unpleasant sensory impressions, which we pull back from, or pleasant ones which we're drawn to and try to keep repeating, will not persist. They will arise, but not persist. Just as when people throw feces, urine, spittle, pus, or blood on the earth, or in the water, in a fire, or in the air, the earth and the other elements are not troubled. The earth is not troubled, worried, or disturbed. So, develop a mind that is like the 4 great elements. Well, we concentrated on earth. Sometimes we do a Sesshin where we move day by day through each of the elements and the qualities of mind that those elements bring up. But in this particular case, it was anchoring the body to the earth and developing the equanimity of the earth. That just as all kinds of things are dumped on the earth just absorbs them without aversion or attraction. So you can dump chocolate truffles on the earth and there is no desire on the earth's part. And you can dump vomit on the earth and there is no aversion on the earth's part. So to develop that kind of equanimity with what comes and goes in our experience and in our minds. And then he says, develop love, Rahula, meaning loving kindness, not romantic love. Develop love, Rahula, for by doing so ill will be gotten rid of. And then he goes through compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. So this is the primary teaching that the Buddha gave to his son. So we should take this very seriously and practice this ourselves. We would expect that he would give his son some very essential teachings. Develop meditation like the earth. Develop a mind that is like the earth. With that kind of stability, strength, power, hidden power, generosity. Someone mentioned in the closing circle, when you realize what comes from the earth is incredibly generous. So how to repay that generosity, that's one of the questions of our practice. And this equanimity of the earth, of not reacting to things. One person mentioned taking on the practice, and I'm sure others did it too, with varying success, of not reacting to the mosquitoes, because you get such an intense reaction. And that's described in a lot of the literature of people in the old days meditating in forests, to let the mosquitoes land and bite, to be willing to feed them. The one person mentioned, he developed some equanimity about it when he realized, the mosquitoes feed on my blood, but then the swallows feed on the mosquitoes. So I'm feeding the swallows, which I love, and I'll tolerate the mosquitoes. So very interesting ways we can adjust our reaction to things so that there's less suffering. The bottom line is less suffering for us and those around us. More happiness, more contentment, more serenity, more balance, and more freedom. So the earth is very old, and sitting with the earth, we get some feeling for that. And also sitting in the forest, we get some feeling for the age of the forest. Not the individual trees. Some of them are very old. We have some that are 100 or 200 years old, which are sacred trees in our forest. But even the younger trees, often they come back from roots of older trees. And then there's the fungi in the forest, which form this huge mat. The largest organism in the world, I think, now is a fungus. A mat underground, hidden. The mushrooms are the visible part, but the mat is hidden. And we don't know how old that is. Some of that could be very, very old. We do know when they evolve, though. So the Earth has existed for about 1/3 the age of the universe. So between 4.5 and 6 billion years. And mankind has been on Earth for about half of the age of the Earth. No, I'm sorry, that's wrong. Cells have been on the Earth for about half the age of the Earth. So life forms, cells, recognizable life forms, for about 3.5 billion years. So we have the universe at, let's say, 18 billion years. We have the Earth at 1/3 of that, 6 billion years. And then half of the Earth life, there's been cellular life. So plants, because we were out in the forest, 475 million years of land plants. Before that, lots of plants in the ocean. Animals on the earth, insects, 400 million years, amphibians, 360 million years, mammals, like the little shrews and the deer, 200 million years, the birds, 150 million years, flowers, 130 million years. You can see these things appearing over the ages that we just take for granted. 65 million years since dinosaurs died out, and about 2.5 million years since the appearance of the genus Homo. But humans that we would recognize as humanoids, about 200,000 years. About 200,000 years. So we're not very old compared to other life forms. Certainly not very old compared to the Earth.